Good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and we have 3 meetings scheduled for 7 o'clock. How do we do it? First is the Township, a special meeting of the Township on budgets, and then that will be followed by the Urbana City Council meeting, and then by a special Urbana City Council meeting, because we always do a special committee of the whole. Excuse me, it was a committee of the whole. We do a committee of the whole after the council meeting according to our ordinance, if that's okay. Dennis? It was listed on the agenda as coming before, but it really should be after, yeah. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the special town board meeting, budget committee, the town board budget committee to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Jacobson?
Here.
Mr. Madigan? Ms. Marlin? Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Smythe? Mayor Pressing.
Here. Okay, is there anyone who would like to address the Cunningham Town Board? Okay, we'll move on. New business, the discussion of the town board budget.
Yeah.
Charlie?
And, yes, this is something I thought just to get our attention on this budget, which we've already put on file for review, so that we could make any changes that or adjustments and get any explanations that we wanted. This morning I sent 5 questions to Michelle to try to get things, to understand a few things. The first one was looking at long-term health care. We may have to, depending on what happens in the future, we may have to start picking up health care. That is on the second to last page of the budget, which I discovered after I looked at it a little more carefully. So if we have to start picking up, Michelle approximates that as $63,500. In the following fiscal year, we'd probably be double that, because this only is for half a year. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yeah, and it's a little high, but if the Affordable Care Act ends and we take over January 1st, then the clients that we have would be issued a medical card, and then it will also raise our client caseload. So it usually takes about 45 to 60 days before we get a bill, and then it always comes after the bills for the month are submitted, so then we'd be paid the next month. So we might pay a couple of months, maybe 3 months in this fiscal year with this budget. So
Okay. Would you like to explain what you mean by the Affordable Care Act ending?
If it is not federally funded after the 3 years of its origination date, it disappears.
That applies to Medicaid or what?
Affordable Care Act, Obamacare.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing you're saying?
Yes. Yep.
The state funded, or
Right.
the state agreed to portion. The state is supposed to pick up the difference. Is that?
Well, Illinois has not agreed to do that. I don't know if other states have, but it's a federally funded program. So when it was written, if it is not federally 90% federally funded after the 3rd year, it will disappear. There will be no more Affordable Care Act. So then we will get the township clients back that we've had before. So we would start paying their medical. We write everything off with the community care program with Carl, so we wouldn't be paying them much. And the same with Provena, but we do pay Christie Clinic because they're not for-profit. And then we pay all the medications. So the medications is where our big expense is with clients.
Eric?
Yeah, just so the record is clear, it's not the Affordable Care Act in total that's ending. What would be ending is the 3-year period during which the federal government agreed to pay a substantial part of the state's Medicaid dollars.
Right. The township will get all of its clients back. So
Yeah.
there won't be any, funding at all for our clients for that.
Mm-hmm.
And some states have chose to, or are in the process, of deciding whether or not they want to pick that up. And Illinois can't afford it, so I cannot see that happening here. But we will get the township clients back if that's the case, if that ends up happening. And it may not. It's just a thing that is at every single training that we go to prepare for.
Eric?
I have another question, and maybe this is legal. Is it, in the event of such a large uncertainty, is it ever legally permissible to adopt a budget for a fraction of a year and then to later pass a budget for the remaining sector of the year?
That would be a Fred question.
Right.
Offhand, I would say no, because it has to be, you have to have a budget within the first 3 months of your fiscal year. It has to be set. But I can ask Fred
Yeah, because
and email you.
because this uncertainty is so great.
Right.
That if it's legal, that would be logical.
Yeah. I'll ask him.
Yeah.
I'll ask him tomorrow and email you.
Yeah,
All of you.
if anybody can find a way to do that, it'll be Fred.
I think what
Right.
we would do is we would adopt what we think would be the large one, and then we wouldn't have to spend it if we didn't need to. But I think it'd be very difficult to pass it too small and then add, because you have to figure out what your levy's going to be and what your fund balances are and everything. Anyone else? Charlie?
I was reading through the statutes, and I sort of agree with Michelle. I doubt that we have that ability. Then there was the other big issue was the Michelle budgeted $150,000 for social services. We did $175,000 last year. I'd like to do that again this year, given the uncertainty with the Carl situation. Michelle is amenable to that, and if we all agree, she will make that change in the final budget, as I understand. Is that correct, Michelle?
Correct.
Yep.
Dennis?
Well, then, do you want to make a motion?
I guess a motion requesting that the social services budget a line item be adjusted to $175,000 and the appropriate expenditures adjusted in the ordinance on page 4 to reflect that change.
And I'll second.
Or Dennis can second.
Okay, motion by Smythe, seconded by Roberts. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
And then
That motion carries.
And I don't know if you want to talk about any of the other issues that I raised. I did share them via email. They were all...
Well, pertaining to the rent assistance program question, when you asked if I wanted to do away with it entirely, yeah, we've only spent $954 out of that line item. So the cost of staff members reviewing it, making phone calls, having, what we have in there, 10,000, I think. Once the calls started coming in, most of them were from Rantoul and Champaign. So we did the referrals to, RPC, and then there's a couple other agencies depending on the person's circumstance and whether or not they have illnesses. But so I think that increasing the social service up to 125, I think, would help more people than doing the full rent assistance program.
175.
175, sorry.
So you want it to go to zero? Is that
That's
what
what's in the budget,
Okay.
yeah.
Bill, did you have a question?
Yeah, just when you put in the property taxes, did you calculate like a percentage increase or assume that the rate's going to stay the same? How did you calculate the revenue from property taxes for next year, for the second half of this fiscal year?
It's what I got from the county clerk. Are you talking about what I levied for?
Well, we already levied for this calendar
Right.
year, but half of that, you know, the first part of our levy next year will be in this budget, right? Or does it work that way?
It just, it's just because of how the property taxes are due and paid. So what I levy for is what the budget is based on.
Okay.
And that's how it's always been done. We will get probably, I think we get one payment in May and one at the end of June, kind of borderline sometimes, that are what you guys would call for the next year. But what we levy is what the budget is based on.
Okay, so what we levied for this calendar year is what you base the budget on for
Correct.
the fiscal year. Okay. And then I guess just one follow-up on social services. I understand did you get the information on their social service grants?
I did the day you emailed me.
Okay.
They brought the disc over.
So are we in agreement that Michelle's going to participate in the social service allocation this year?
I certainly, I'm sorry. I certainly would support that.
No, me too.
Okay.
Dennis?
Yeah. Let's see, so I just noticed that for the 2017 budget, you had a couple of items that hadn't been covered before that are now in the town fund expenditures, and one of them was $6,700 for telephone. Were those telephone services picked up by the general fund before or something?
Yes.
else? So they're just
Yeah.
being shifted over to the town fund now?
It's going to be like
Or
kind of
split.
back and forth and split. And since I cut the $200,000 out of the GA levy, then,
It's easier to pick it up.
correct.
Through the
There
town
was more
fund.
money in the town fund
Okay.
levy.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Did you want to say anything else, Charlie? Anyone else? Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there being no further business, we'll adjourn this special town budget meeting.